Hello, everyone, and welcome to this amazing episode on the MedED page. I'm really excited about this because we have a special guest that's going to shed light and shine light on an important topic. The match is something that we all dread as applicants, and we have someone that went unmatched the previous year in radiology and matched into an integrated IR program this year. Would love to have Hamad Malik introduce himself. Without further ado, Hamad Malik, can you just tell us a little about who you are and what you went through?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Awan. So, my name is Hamad. I am currently a PGY1 transitional year resident, and thanks Allah, I have successfully matched this year as a reapplicant to the Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center Interventional Radiology Program Integrated, and I will be beginning my residency in 2024. And I'm very grateful for Dr. Awan for helping me out and for all my mentors who have helped me get to where I am.
First of all, huge congratulations. I mean, that's not an easy task to do. People have said that integrated IR is one of, if not the most competitive specialty to match into. So, I mean, you deserve a huge congratulations for that. So that's awesome. And I would love to just start by, just asking you, people who go unmatched, and you went unmatched last year, that's devastating, right? I mean, like, people are depressed. I mean, it is a nerve-wracking, devastating experience when you open that letter and it says you were unmatched, or you did not match into a program. Can you just tell me a little bit about what that feeling was like, what was going through your head during that time, and how did you sort of cope with that experience?
Yeah, of course. So it was to be honest, a very, very difficult situation because I woke up that morning and so just for context, before I applied for residency, I, like many other international graduates, got involved in a research program to, build up our CV, get more experience, get some good letters of recommendation. So I, along with some other colleagues who are doing research, I did research at the Mayo Clinic in the Department of Interventional Radiology and Neuroradiology. So it was very difficult because all my colleagues who applied, they were with me, some of the other students, and they all matched, and I was one of the very few who didn't match, and it was very, very disheartening. I was very upset, and I just, needed some time by myself. But I'm very grateful for this community of radiology, for all these wonderful people out there, people like you, mentors, and so many other wonderful, radiology seniors who reached out to me. I made a Twitter post that unfortunately I did not match. And during that time, while I was just taking it to process it, so many people reached out to me and they sent me messages like showing me that, hey man, this is my email from last year. We are sorry you didn't match. And this is my email from this year. Congratulations, you have matched. So just stay in the game, be focused, work hard, put your trust in God, put your trust in Allah, and just it's gonna happen. And I think after 1 or 2 days, after it takes time to process all the grief and everything, that's when I started to have some acceptance came that, slowly came to me. And I'm very grateful for the people that reached out to me. And, alhamdulillah, I became more comfortable. And after that, I was very, very fortunate that one of my colleagues made call to one of my current program director. He recommended me for the current program, and I was able to secure a transitional year residency. And that's how I dealt with the situation during the last year's math cycle.
I think you highlighted some amazing points. Like, first of all, it's amazing that people are so uplifting, and in radiology, I don't know how that is in other fields, but, I think that has a huge component to your success. The fact that you had such a supportive environment. The other thing is, I think we really need to normalize just asking for help. Like, when you go unmatched, just knowing that you're not alone, that there are many other people that are in the same boat, and just asking people for like honest feedback and just honest advice. I mean, those things are priceless. And that's really a major aspect of you sort of being able to get to the finish line this year. So I think, that's just so crucial. I would love to just ask you about, some of the resources, like, what are some of the resources out there, or what are options? Like, if you could talk about SOAP or some other things that are available for people that, essentially go unmatched.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So I think it really comes down to the fact that after you go unmatched, take some time to really decide whether you want to proceed further with a soap, because not everyone is going to be, fortunate enough to get a spot, and it's an unnecessary, 2 to 3 days of more stress and anxiety, and there is no guarantee that you will get one. So if you are, ready to go through that process, that's something you need to decide. I know some colleagues who didn't decide to go through the SOAP because they knew that they would rather be a very strong reapplicant than try to scramble and get through a spot. So that's one thing. Secondly, in terms of resources, I think the main resource is the NRMP website, which opens up after you unfortunately get the email that you have been unmatched. You will go to the website, which opens up all the SOAP's positions. Now, with that being said, it's in these moments where it's a very difficult situation, especially for non-US international graduates who are in different locations. I personally noticed that locations plays a very big factor in the SOAP, as does your connections and your contacts. Like I got my own spot because I knew one of my colleagues. He knew me. He knew I was a good candidate. He knew I just needed a little bit of help. So he contacted his program director, and they just happened to have a spot in the SOAP, and that's where I matched. And just like that, I know other people who have helped, people get into programs through the SOAP. But historically, the SOAP is a very challenging situation, especially for non-US IMGs, and it's a very big, competition for getting those last-minute spots. So it definitely helps to reach out to people who you know and you can trust, and do not try to initiate contact with programs yourself. That is against the NRMP rules, and it can be very devastating. So definitely reach out to people you trust who are in programs, and if there happen to be spots in the program, or any mentors or teachers whom you can reach out to who know someone who's in a program, just reaching out to connections and asking them for advice, for help, and that can be something that can be useful. Apart from that, there's also the post match. So after SOAP happens, there's still a chance that some spots will be open up. So one thing that you can do is always be on the lookout for pages or posts on Twitter. I think every student who wants to apply should be on Twitter. Everyone who wants to learn more should, just be active, have a social media presence, and just, keep a lookout. And apart from that, I think the single biggest thing, if you're going to navigate through the SOAP, is just find a good mentor, and I think find the right resources. Like they can find a lot of good things regarding, residency advice from your YouTube channel, and they can find a lot of good things on Twitter, post regularly. So I think just staying up to date with whatever is available out there really, really helps you navigate through not just the residency, but also SOAP as well.
You mentioned a ton of things there, and you dropped a lot of pearls of wisdom. But I think one thing that you said was, it's so important when you go on MATCH to just kind of take a step back and do some introspective review of yourself, and what went well, why you think you didn't match. In your estimation, Hamad, like, why do you think you didn't match? Like the first year, if you can, go back and rewind the clock a year and think back to last year when you got that letter and you had some time to review. What was it about you or your application that you think you didn't quite match, but this year obviously you did?
Of course. So I, did a self-review as well, and I also reached out to, some program directors and asked them for feedback. I think everyone should ask feedback from program directors. It's how you grow and how you learn. So two things that, two program directors reached out to me. They said that, it's better to have some experience as well. So if you can try to get some clinical rotations in radiology, that would be very, very helpful. Another program director said that it's a very complicated situation. It's a very competitive situation. You have to, be active. Definitely try to rotate at the program or express your interest, or definitely have mentors. So I personally had no U.S. clinical electives in radiology. I was doing a research only, and I did not have that much experience. I did not have that much clinical rotations. So that was something that definitely impacted me. And apart from that, I think another thing for international graduates is that I got ECFMG certified within the cycle. So I learned this later on, that when programs look at your cycle, look at your application for an international graduate, everything has to fit in perfectly. That means your steps should be there, your ECFMG certificate should be there, and everything should be set and done and perfect. It's not a hard and fast rule, because if a program really wants you, they will take you. But you have to make sure that everything is complete. So to summarize, for me, I did not have that many clinical rotations. I was not completely certified. And I think the third thing is that I was in a different location as well. So I was in the Midwest where there isn't that much proximity to programs. And I was very young. I only applied with 4 months of experience during my research, and I had some experience back home in Pakistan. So having US clinical experience is something very, very important. That's something which I really feel like program directors echo to me.
And ultimately, you chose to do a prelim year. And, this is a question actually, what I'm about to ask you, I get from tons of my mentees and tons of applicants. What are the pros and cons of doing a prelim year like you did versus just taking the year off, doing research, and then reapplying again the next year? In your estimation, what do you think the pros and cons are of those two different situations?
Absolutely. So I highly, highly encourage everyone. If you are able to successfully secure a preliminary position, 100% go through with it. I do not think that it is ever a bad idea, because if you weigh out the pros and cons, when you are doing a preliminary year, you are in the US medical residency system. Now you are a part of the American College of Graduate Medical Education. So you are in the system right now, and that's a very big plus. Number two, you gain clinical experience, and now you have the support of clinical staff members and especially program director who will now back you up. That is something very, very helpful. My program director was wonderful. He was extremely supportive, and I could not have matched it without his support. So that's something which I highly, highly recommend. Also, during your preliminary year, you also have the opportunity to do electives. And if you're fortunate to match at a relatively big hospital, they have their own radiology department, and you can get a chance to rotate with them, build connections, and you can even match there. I know two colleagues who matched in their own home institution program where they only matched for the preliminary year. One of them matched at the University of Buffalo, and another one matched at the University of Texas, Southwestern. So it's definitely possible to navigate from the preliminary year. Now, the flip side is that sometimes a preliminary medicine year can be very, very competitive, and it also, can be very, very challenging in the sense that you have a lot of work to do, and it is difficult to navigate research, electives, and prepare yourself for your upcoming application. Secondly, not every program will have flexibility that they may allow you to do internal rotations. Some may not have a radiology department. Some may not allow you to do rotations outside your hospital, or some may not allow you to do, radiology rotations. They might think that you need to rotate through the medical specialties such as nephrology or cardiology, etc. There's various, every hospital follows a different rule. Every training program follows a different rule. So, if you feel like you really want to do more time in research and you feel like it's a personal choice at the end of the day, but research does have the added benefit that you can get more papers, you can have a chance to speak to your faculty mentors, build a stronger connection over time, and reapply again. But at the end of the day, everything is ultimately a chance. But if you have to choose, my honest opinion is that you should go through with a clinical year if you are successful. But if you feel like you have certain deficiencies, you have certain red flags to overcome, I don't think anyone should apply to radiology with just 1 year of research experience. I think you should at least give 2 years of radiology research experience. If you're applying as a non-US IMG, you have limited to no clinical experience, and you have some certain red flags you want to cover.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think another positive about doing a prelim year that often people don't talk about is that sometimes there's unexpected R1 openings, right? Like an unexpected radiology first year opening that you're eligible for. And people who haven't done a prelim year are not eligible for it because they haven't completed their intern year. So in a sense, it makes the application pool a little less tight, right? And a little less competitive. So I think that's another, just natural plus to the process. I want to talk a little bit about failure because I think, failure isn't talked about enough, and we need to normalize that. And, everyone experiences obstacles, and I'm sure you experienced certain obstacles in your prelim year. How were you able to, first of all, what obstacles did you face, and how were you able to navigate those obstacles to ultimately make yourself successful?
Of course, and thank you. That's such a great question. I feel like, we're all we're all doctors and we're all programmed not to even think about the word failure. We're just always like, get it in the first shot, go through with it, just, don't even think about failing, just put in the effort. And I think it's very important to process failure because it not only helps you grow, but it, humbles you as well. And with that being said, my program, some of the things that I had to deal with, which were quite challenging, were that I had to be a resident and I had to be a reapplicant. So it was very challenging navigating those two tasks because you have to keep in mind that you have to complete your application again. You have to get new letters of recommendation again. You have to write your personal statement again. And not only that, if you are able to, still stay in touch with any of your professors from when you were a research candidate or anything else, you have to, keep up with your research. Or if you did not do research and you matched solely as a preliminary, you have to take time out to find research mentors and work with them. And that's a very, very challenging task. Not only that, you have to navigate rotations, which may not always be easy. Some of them might be, very, excuse me, very, very far away. Like I was in Massachusetts, but to come and do a rotation with you, I had to come to Maryland, which is a flight away. I had to make arrangements for 1 month. I had to stay nearby. I had to be there on time. I had to, really, really be very careful. And I'm very grateful for the support of my program director, my chiefs, and my coordinator, who were really, really very supportive to help me navigate that. But not every program is going to be as flexible or have that liberty. So it's quite challenging because you have to help them, understand that this is something I really need to do. And sometimes they may not, be willing to accommodate you, but then you have to be your own advocate while at the same time respecting the limitations of your program. And apart from that, residency is very, very, hard work. Yeah, it's very challenging. You have to do everything simultaneously, which can be mentally taxing. And if you're not putting in effort in your residency program to focus more on your residency application for your future, it will definitely show, and your attendings, your co-residents, your senior residents will definitely, take notice of that. That is something I personally experienced, that when I was not putting in the effort because I was focusing on my application, I had to, deal with that. And I'm so grateful for the support of my chiefs and my senior residents who actually took the time to help me understand things. And they sat me down. They asked me, how's everything going? What's going on? I told them, I'm applying again. It's a very challenging task. They were like, we understand. We're here to support you. We're here to help you. And we want you to get better. And that is a wonderful feeling. It just comes back to, having the support of good people around you.
And it's interesting, and I want to make this clear. I know you touched on this a little bit, but what precisely and specifically did you do differently this year?
Yeah,
that
of
you
course.
didn't do last year? Because obviously your result is completely different this year. I mean, you struck the gold mine, right? I mean, you got integrated IR at Dartmouth, which is an amazing institution, and last year you won a match. So I'm sure many people would want to know what really is it that you did this year that you really didn't do last year.
So one thing that one of my professors, from the Mayo Clinic, he told me this, and I'll never forget. He's a wonderful professor. He told me, be more straightforward and honest in your life, and it'll definitely make things a lot more easier. So I think as international graduates, we're always, trying to struggle to get into positions, and it's true. We want to get a position. We often sell ourselves short, and we don't really, understand that we have to put in the effort, not just try to grab every spot or any spot that comes up. So I think being more honest with yourself and actually taking the time out to work on yourself and finding the best fit program, which really values you and really, understands you and coincides with what you want from a program as well. That's something that I really, really focused on this year, being very true and honest. Says that I want to be an academic radiologist, and I wanted to, let programs know that, how they say that in a community program, you shouldn't focus on talking about research. You should focus on clinical stuff. But I think just being true to yourself is something that's very, very important. Secondly, this year, I definitely focused on connecting more with my mentors, reaching out to them, asking them for feedback, guidance, being more and straightforward, requesting them time to guide me through my personal statements in the beginning. when you start this journey, you're often afraid, you want to do things yourself, you don't want to bother your mentors, which I can understand. But at the same time, you have to, it's a two-way street. You have to have good communication skills with your mentors, reach out to them, ask a time, set, like moments in your residency application where you sit down, you meet with your mentors, you talk to them, you discuss them. And I think this year I was more straightforward and more open and had more helpful communication and conversations with my mentors that helped me. I definitely worked more on my application by trying to get to rotations. I did 3 rotations this year, and those really helped me as well because it gave me a more clinical experience. And I think also everything really had to play in right, because my application this year was really geared towards who I wanted to be and where I wanted to be. I know that I want to be an academic person. I want to pursue a career in academic radiology, and the programs could see that. Programs see what kind of candidate you are, and it has to be the right match. And definitely being in a different location helps, because I'm in Massachusetts. New Hampshire is not too far. It really gave me, and I also signaled the Massachusetts area as well, Massachusetts, New Hampshire area. So that also factored into this as well. So it's a combination of these factors, mentorship, more experience, more research, being true to yourself, and also being in the good location area as well.
Absolutely great golden advice. Hope everyone pays attention to what you just said. And a lot of questions, a lot of people who are doing a prelim year will want to know, well, how do they navigate that year? And I want to specifically ask you about your elective time. How did you plan your elective time to maximize your chances to match this year?
Absolutely. So every program, even my brother who matched, he also has 2 months of electives. All programs have a minimum of 2 months of electives. So it really depends on your program. You have to reach out and be very, very communicative. One advice I give to every new intern, new resident who is coming out: be very, very communicative with your chief residents. They are there solely to help you, solely to navigate you, help you navigate your journey and guide you. They are your best resources to figure everything out, because they have done this for 3 or 4 years. So have excellent communication with your chief residents. I'm very grateful for mine. So I knew that the match happens in September, and my program was going to start in the end of June, early July. So I needed to get my electives done before September so that I can have that experience tied up, so that when I apply, I have that experience, I have that exposure, and also it's not, difficult to navigate, because if you are able to get a rotation during the match, it's going to be challenging. You won't get a chance to connect with the residents. You won't get a chance to connect with the faculty, because they're going to be busy with the residency applications. But if you're able to navigate it earlier on, that will be very, very helpful. So I was able to navigate my rotations. I reached out to my chiefs. I reached out to my program coordinator. I reached out to local areas and local hospitals in my, area as well, and had my coordinator email them as well that, hi, we have a resident who would love to do a rotation with you. Are you willing to accept? She emailed all the local programs. 2 programs said yes, and once I also reached out to you as well, requesting for a rotation, and the schedule aligned very well. So I'm very grateful for that. So it just comes down to good communication and having the schedule beforehand and just planning it all out. Don't just recklessly do something. Plan it out, coordinate with your chiefs, and definitely make sure that you get everything done as much as you can before September.
Awesome. And finally, just a last question to end this. I just want to ask you about the gap year. I think a lot of people have questions about the gap year. Can you tell us a little bit about the gap year and any advice you have to prospective applicants that are doing the gap year?
Absolutely. So the gap year is when you match an intern year, you are going to be reapplying for the radiology residency program starting in the year in advance, because radiology is an advanced match, meaning if when I applied for the 2023 match, I matched, but my radiology residency is going to begin in 2024. So for that, and my residency is ending in June 2023. So in between June 2023 and June 2024, before I begin my radiology residency, I'm going to have the 1-year gap. So you have 3 options that you can choose from, and it's entirely up to you what you want to do. One option is that after you're done with your intern year, if you're successful in navigating through the match, then you can ultimately decide you want to take a break, and you can decide to go home, spend time with your family, and just, some people like to travel, some people like to manage their family affairs, get married, whatever is, appropriate for you, how you want to utilize that time. The other option is that you can take a research year out. If you're a non-US IMG, you can try to do a research, but you will be given a limited research scholar visa. That means you can only do research for 6 months, because you will be transitioning from a J1 clinical visa or an H. If you happen to have an H1, it's a different story, but you can get a limited scholar research visa, and you can do research for a few months. And then after that, you will have to go back to your home country and then come back again when you get your new documents from your new residency program. The third option, which is recently gaining more and more popularity, is doing a nuclear medicine fellowship. So what is nuclear medicine? A lot of your radiology residency training will involve nuclear radiology as well, which is reading PET scans, reading radioactive iodine studies, and cardiac scans. And that is a separate residency in itself as well. So that is a nuclear radiology residency, which is a 3-year residency, nuclear medicine. And there's many programs around the country which have those residency programs. These residency programs are very favorable for those candidates who want to continue their learning. And also, these programs are very welcoming to those candidates who are applying radiology, because they know that they are passionate about radiology, they want to learn, it will enhance their learning. And most programs are very, very understanding that if you apply to them, if you are fortunate to match into a program and you need to fill the gap here, they're very welcoming. They know that you want to learn, and they want residents to help, with the program and the department as well. So they will accept that. And there's 2 ways to navigate through this. Some colleagues apply beforehand, like myself. So after the residency match opened up and I started doing my residency interviews, I reached out to my colleagues at the Johns Hopkins University who were doing their nuclear residency, and they were similar to me, had applied during the preliminary year and matched into their advanced years. So during that gap year, they reached out to Johns Hopkins and both got accepted, and then they finished up their 1 year, and now they're going to the radiology residencies. So my colleagues, they knew me, they recommended me to the program director, and that's it. That's all they could do. And after that, the program director really liked my application. He interviewed me. There were 11 candidates, and ultimately it was a good fit because they really liked me and they really wanted me to learn and work in the program. So that's something that happens as well. Some candidates can apply after the radiology match as well, because there are spots that are open, but it's entirely up to you. It's an excellent way to enhance your learning. It's also a very good way to secure a training spot. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to learn more about this wonderful field of radiology.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. I learned a ton from you, Hamad. I hope others learned a ton from you. Very valuable insights. Thank you so much for everything. And once again, seriously, congratulations. Job well done.
So much, sir. Everything I am, I'm a sum of my mentors, my teachers, my friends, and my family.
Appreciate it.